We have a very special speaker next, Mr. Bill Coffin. Bill Coffin is really one of the architects of a national movement to enhance families and marriages. For nearly a decade, just until recently, he served as a special assistant for marriage education at the Administration for Children and Families in Washington. And before that, he spent nearly 30 years in the Navy, and much of that later time really helped build the Navy's Family Support Program, which is a model for the military. And he rolls up his sleeves and gets things done. He's also the coordinator for marriage preparation for the Archdiocese of Washington and a consultant to the U.S. Bishops Committee on Marriage and Family Life. Bill's going to provide us with an overview from the very beginning, because that's where he was. He was one of the foundational people who helped build this budding movement. Bill?
Session, and especially tomorrow. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Greg and Dan and Sandy. Sandy sent me this email and outlined what I was supposed to do with these 20 minutes. And behind it, there was music playing from Mission Impossible. You know, the bit about, your mission, should you accept it, and this email will self-destruct in 10 seconds. Because she wanted me to cover the history and the impact that Wade had, and the research, and where we are now and where we may be going. And I'll do some of that, and hopefully do it well. Am I on? I'm impressed with Newman. I mean, not just his beautiful facility, but the mission, empowering students to transform society. And I also think that that's what we're about over the next 2 days. Empowering each other to transform the marriages, families, and society that is Kansas. What Greg neglected to mention, which I'm most proud of, I'm the father of 4, grandfather of 6, and the husband of 1. And although Sandy suggested I start in the 70s, I wasn't around in the 30s, but I don't know. Some interesting things happened in the 30s. Philadelphia started a marriage guidance council. There was a guy named Ernest Grove at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, who used to teach courses on marriage and the family. We started an annual conference on marriage and the family in 1934, who wrote the book on American family. Amazing work that was done by National Council on Family Relations, by the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy. And in the early 40s, David Mace started marriage guidance in London and then came to the States and did the same type of thing here. And marriage prep for the Catholic Church started in 1946, the year I was born. And some people are still using that curriculum, and we need to upgrade some of those materials. In the 50s, it was interesting struggling with this one page. I could talk about this for a long time, but in the 50s and 60s, additional good work happened. And forgive me if I leave out your favorite name or your favorite program. This is a cursory overview. This is the tip of the iceberg. But Marriage Encounter and David Mace's first retreat were both held first time in 1962. Of course, Marriage Encounter started in Spain and it came to the U.S. in the mid-60s. But in 1964, to make it personal, at Fairfield University, I met a very special young lady, and we got married 4 years later, right? And I suggested we move the wedding up to the fall rather than the next summer because I had orders. I was in the Navy and I was going to be assigned to Monterey, California, and I convinced her it would be a year-long honeymoon at government expense in Monterey, California. And her recollection of 1969 is not a year-long honeymoon experience because we had issues. We had a lot of issues. And occasionally we start going like this to each other. And maybe that was because we didn't have very good marriage prep. Two Catholic priest friends of ours said, best of luck. You guys come from good Catholic families. Enjoy California. And we realized when we got to California, we needed a little bit more support and guidance and anticipatory stuff, and skills and knowledge and information. And maybe in the late 60s it wasn't available, but I sure wish Fairfield University had said, hey, Coffin, you're going to get married soon? You're going to have to learn how to take her perspective even when you don't agree with it. Even when you think it's a molehill and she thinks it's a mountain, you're going to have to see the mountain and let her know that you can see that mountain. I couldn't do that. I don't know how many people in this room can do that, but I think that's significant change. Oh, thank you very much. If I roam, you can hear me. Thank you. I could start doing this, right? So in this is the late 60s, and we realize how different we really are. Even though we dated for 4 years in college, we had not lived together, and we did not realize that we differed over important things like how long dishes could stay in the sink. And some of us think, what's the friggin' hurry? They could stay there for a while, till the sink is full, till you run out of plates, and don't necessarily agree with things like, well, there's a right and a wrong way to put them in the dishwasher. How anal is that? But we differed over how late you could be for church and have it still count. Some of us think you can run a little late, and some folks need to be there early to practice the hymns. The big one for us, and it's still, other differences like how much you save and how much you throw out, are still there. But the big one that's, started then and continues to this very day is what do you do on weekends? What are weekends made for? And I believe, and therefore I know I'm right, that weekends are made for rest, relaxation, recharge the batteries, read the newspaper, put your feet up, re-energize, afternoon delight, watch the games on TV. Chill out. Watch the games on TV. And Pat believes that weekends are made to accomplish everything he didn't accomplish Monday to Friday. So she asked a simple question like, when are you going to rake? What time are you going to rake the leaves? And I'm thinking, rake the leaves? Why would I want to waste time raking leaves? If he had wanted leaves to be raked, he would have come up with a better system. That's too time-consuming, and oh, by the way, you can't watch the games from out there, and they wouldn't show them if they didn't expect us to watch. That's what's important. That's what you do on a weekend. That's what my father did. You enjoy sports. That's what you want to do with your free time, right? And Pat would have me out there raking, and sometimes I would think she'd want me out there catching them as they fall off the trees. But no. And some of that is personality. Some of it is family of origin. Some of it is temperament. Have many of you taken the Myers-Briggs personality inventory? I'm an ESPN on that. Rob, have you heard that one before? Because they had me take it again, and that one came out ESPN too. I know, I'm not supposed to be entertaining. I'm supposed to be serious and informative and inspiring. And I've got a lot to cover. And I'm still worried that she's going to give me the 5 minutes time soon. Because I'm going to be honest. I'm only on slide 1, and people are thinking, boy, I hope he breaks soon. So in the 1980s, I actually brought my props with me. In the 1980s, there were some really good books written, right? So Secrets of Strong Families. Nick Stenay, John Dufresne, University of Michigan. You know what the problem is with the Secrets of Strong Families? They're still secrets. People don't know what the 6 things are. People don't know what the descriptions are. But also there was a book edited by David Mace, Prevention in Family Services, Approaches to Family Wellness, based on a meeting held in 1981, 30 years ago. And of course, The Birth of the Family, 1989, I believe. The principal point is how a child is incorporated into a family depends a great deal on the quality of the marriage before the child arrives. You may have other favorite people and authors who wrote in the 80s and 90s, like Mike McManus and Gary Smalley and Family Life Today weekend workshops, and it was just a lot happening. I mean, I was blessed and very fortunate to attend parent effectiveness training in the early 70s from Navy chaplains at Great Lakes, Illinois. And we found out that there were typical 12 communication mistakes that we were making with each other, no less making with our oldest son. And that was my entry, that was my on-ramp into this field. And in the 1990s, smart marriages took off. Diane Soley formed a coalition for marriage, family, and couples education and had a conference every year. The TANF program changed, 1996. And Oklahoma in the late 90s started a marriage initiative based on their governor's suggestion that they do something about the divorce rate. And he said, let's cut it by 1/3 in a decade. You can't get there from here, but at least he said, let's do it. And they've done it. How many people are in the room from Oklahoma? You got at least a half a dozen. Talk to the folks. Oklahoma knows how to do this stuff, and they do it well. HHS had a meeting in 1990 where they talked about the secrets of strong families. They took these 6 and they raised them 3. People didn't know what this list is, and they don't know how to do many things on this list. Because just expressing appreciation is important doesn't tell me how I can do that, how I can best do that. This hopefully will be posted. I can't link to it right now, but what I wanted to show you is the ACF website back in 2006. Of course, it's got a quote from Wade Horn and a quote from President Bush, and it shows the background and the goals and objectives and pretty good stuff. I mean, I was looking at it again last night. I mean, we were before open government was in, we were open about what we're doing and why. And it was, in fact, based on the research, and Wade, of course, said we'll do more research. And I'll talk about that soon. The way I saw it is we were giving psychology away. We were giving psychology and family science away. We were making it easy for people to know what the research and literature said. And taking a public health approach and doing primary prevention. I'm a preventionist at heart. And, of course, primary is before it happens. Secondary is before it gets worse. And tertiary is before it's too late. Well, what I wanted to do as much before it happened. Why do bad things have to happen if they don't? Can't we educate folks enough that they might prevent some of that? And of course, the new terms in prevention are universal, selected, and targeted. I was basing some of my work at ACF with Rob and others on what David Mace said were the 3 essentials of a couple's primary coping system. They needed commitment to ongoing growth and change, they needed a good communication system, and they need the ability to deal with the inevitable conflict and anger in marriage. What percent of couples in Kansas have all 3? This is the audience participation portion of my talk. you can call out a number. What percentage of Kansas couples have all three? Excuse me? A little louder. 50? 3 and 0. We got some pessimists in the room. Or some realists. Any other numbers? Any other? 30%? Do I hear 50? The problem is I don't know. Yeah, some of the researchers in the room would think, he's going to tell us, and then we're going to mark that as a benchmark. I don't know, but let me give you a hunch. It's around 1 in 4. And the reason I say that is because I asked that question of Navy chaplains and social workers throughout the 90s. We did a lot of prep training in the 90s. In fact, we did the original prep training in July of 1990. And every time we'd meet, I'd ask Navy chaplains and social workers, what percentage of Navy or Marine Corps couples have all three? And the average response was 24% actually. It's no wonder we have problems if only 1/4 of the couples has what it takes to survive and thrive in relationships. I mean, and wouldn't you be interested in seeing if you could double that figure? And first verify it, but then double it? I mean, this isn't rocket science. I mean, we can train people. I mean, even guys, most guys are trainable. Most guys, you give me the playbook, you show me the role play, you teach me, you coach me. Yeah, give me some help, okay? And of course, ladies occasionally need some help too. But it's interesting, on good communication skills, there's a big book. I mean, I can't. Textbooks have become so expensive. I think it was $100, but there's a textbook in the bookstore here that's the title of which is Communicate. And yes, they do have a small section on empathy, on showing understanding. But don't we need to teach that as a skill? Don't we need to help people learn these skills so that people can achieve their dreams? Here's a complete list of what Child Trends helped us develop, a complete list of what's the definition of a healthy marriage. What are the elements of a healthy marriage? And there are, in fact, these 10. And as I was looking in the bookstore here last evening, there's a book on family policy towards the right-hand side, lower shelf. And they've got this is a chart from Child Trends. This is the middle section on the chart with the definition of a healthy marriage. It's preceded by antecedents and it's followed by consequences. But this stuff is readily available at childtrends.org. We focused on making sure we got the domestic violence thing right, with the help of Ann Renard and other people. I mean, we made sure that Healthy Marriage Initiatives had domestic violence protocols because we knew that was important. But shouldn't we be teaching more people, more individuals, more students about the equality wheel? And not just talking about the power control wheel, flipping it over and say, hey, this is what you can do to make sure you have a good, healthy relationship. And that's what we were interested in. Of course, satisfaction's on the list, and Kansas has their own assessment instrument, thanks to Walter Schrum at Kansas State, the Kansas Marital Satisfaction Scale, which is being used, by the way, in California as they evaluate the work that they've been doing in California. When we developed the second round of grants, we added some key elements. Now, I can't say that every healthy marriage grant or grantee is doing all 6 of these, and they're not doing them all well. But shouldn't we figure out, finally, how to teach communication skills? It's more than a paraphrase, it's more than active listening. Shouldn't we tell young women, maybe all women, that the soft, gentle startup matters? How many women in this room have heard about John Gottman's research on the soft, gentle startup? Good. Well, more than when I asked in Ohio 5 years ago, and I only had 2 hands go up. But you have to hear about something before you're able to do it. You have to hear that there's a benefit to doing it, because guys have a hard time listening if it's not done well, and guys need to take influence from the woman in their life and show understanding. And guys can do that too if they were taught But we also added benefits, beliefs about marriage, qualities of a healthy marriage, and the benefits are included in one of your handouts on 26 conclusions from the social sciences. The handouts or the PowerPoint. I've got material on the table outside that tells you more about the Relationship Enhancement Program and the Mastering the Mysteries of Love, but this is kind of a summary of what empathy and showing understanding is all about. And I bet guys could do this. I would love to train guys in fatherhood programs to do this, even when she doesn't use a soft, gentle start. To be a stand-up kind of guy, to take responsibility for your actions, and just take a seat and say, tell me more. There's a number of slides that I added this morning around 5:30, and the danger of that is that I'm going to run out of time, right? Because I just got my 5-minute warning. But some slides, the picture's worth 1,000 words. Could you just take a look at this slide for a moment, please? Divorce and out-of-wedlock pregnancy cost Kansas $136 million a year, every year, based on a 2008 report put out by the Institute for American Values. Countrywide, it's $112 billion a year, every year, which happens to be the same cost, according to the Washington Post last week, of the Afghan war this year. It's expensive. And kids suffer if their parents don't marry or if their parents aren't in a healthy relationship. So Paul Amato of Penn State has analyzed a lot of data and said, if couples were together as they were only in the 80s, so you turn back the clock a little, not to the 60s, but look how significantly the drop in children's problems would be if we got our act together around relationships, around partnering, around how to be a better spouse, how to be in a good relationship, how to be in a healthy relationship, a healthy marriage. It's not only about marriage, it's about being in a healthy marriage. Research that says you have marriage to kids. And then there's the ACF website now. Now this screen in the middle here is called the confidence screen. And it's not giving me much confidence because I can't read it without my glasses. And I'm reluctant to look behind me, but I think what we're about to show you is a couple of slides from Cowan and Cowan doing remarkable work out of Berkeley in California, originally they had a control group, a fathers group, and a couples group, and the couples group even did better, right? So I will just let the slides speak for themselves. It's somebody else's work that I heard about again last week, and I said, I want to tell the folks in Kansas about supporting father involvement, because this stuff is too important to stay in California. Their most recent work is being funded by the California Office of Child Abuse and Neglect, and they're working with families that are being referred into the child abuse, child welfare system. And it's making a difference. I mean, some of this information is self-evident, or some of us have been studying and working on this for years, and yet others, I assume others in this room, have never heard this stuff. And there's the website. SHM is the project that Mike and his colleagues were working with Marriage for Keeps. We'll have results on that project next year. So he is one of the 8 sites. Pretty powerful, working with married couples. Unlike the previous research, the SHM research that was working with fragile families, unmarried couples with a baby, where the result there was, it works in Oklahoma. What is Oklahoma doing right? How come they can keep retention, achieve benefit, achieve outcome? And how can more people do what Oklahoma's doing? Last couple slides are from Francesca Adler-Bader at Auburn. I heard this beginning of May in a conference in Baltimore. I don't have much of a life since I retired, right? I'm a recovering Fed, and so I continue to go to some of these conferences because some of my best friends are there and some of my colleagues are there, and some, so I asked Francesca Saturday, Francesca, would you please forward me the briefing that you gave? So it's a 30-slide briefing, and I'm just going to take a few slides, right? That's what's missing. Most people would agree with the beginning list, but when you get down to the bottom, we run out of money, we run out of time, we run out of staff, and we say, well, isn't the church doing that, or isn't somebody else doing that? Extension is, yes, Karen Elliott, our regional specialist, came from Extension. We've got Charlotte Shoup Olson in the audience from K-State Extension's onto something, and they're developing a model, right? So they're using this model, and one of the reasons Francesca impresses me is because at Auburn, she develops things like this. All this stuff impacts kids, and the couple relationship affects everything else. It's a lot of words on this slide. You can skim it, and I'll give you the bottom line. They're doing research with Head Start couples in Tuskegee, Alabama, and it's working. It's working for the 4-year-olds, even though they're not dealing with the 4-year-olds. They're dealing with the 4-year-old parents. It's kind of remarkable that if you put the parents in relationship and marriage education, and they're using a program out of Michigan State, that it has a beneficial impact on the kids. And that's what we're all about. I assume that's what most of you are all about. And hopefully these links, these websites, will empower you to change and help the couples, families, and society in Kansas. Thank you very much.